Now, even the simplest of infections could kill you, as medicine is thrown 200 years in reverse. That's the bleak warning from the Chief Medical Officer, who has compared the catastrophic threat of antibiotic-resistant bugs to international terrorism. Dame Sally Davis called for urgent action to develop new drugs before minor infections become untreatable. Our science editor, Tom Clark, reports.
Things like Klebsiella, you can see these shiny dots here. These are the bacteria growing here.
Professor Laura Piddock spends her time trying to find new ways to kill bacteria. In her lab at the University of Birmingham are some of the nastiest bugs known to medicine. And for a long time, she and her colleagues have been warning how they're only getting nastier. The majority of hard-to-treat infections now are caused by gram-negative bacteria, like these. They kill around 5,000 people in our hospitals every year, and in half those cases, the bacteria are resistant to antibiotics.
The nightmare scenario is a multi-drug resistant gram-negative bacteria that is untreatable with all known licensed antibiotics, because that means there isn't even a drug to start off with. The moment we have a couple left and we can at least start patients on these antibiotics. So the nightmare for me is we've run out of any options.
Now Britain's top doctor is warning that if antibiotic resistance isn't made a top priority, medicine will take a giant leap backwards.
I recently had a minor operation on my wrist, got no infection and was fine. But in 20 years' time, if I had that operation or a replacement hip and I got an infection, it might well not be treatable. If it gets into my blood, I could die. We could be back where we were at the beginning of the 19th century with untreatable infections and a high death rate.
It's not just lethal gram-negative hospital infections. Virtually untreatable tuberculosis is on the rise. So too are bugs that society was only too happy to see the back of.
Gonorrhea has caused more suffering than any of us would care to think about.
They thought gonorrhea had gone away, but there are now strains of the bacterium resistant to all antibiotics. The CMO's report calls for action on new superbugs of the kind that tackled MRSA. Deep cleaning and awareness help bring infection rates down by 80% in a decade. But these new bugs are tougher. There's been no medicine developed against gram-negative bacteria since the 1980s. More are urgently needed.
There are so many ways in which resistance can be prevented, but I'm a little gloomy, actually.
When Alistair Geddes left medical school in 1951, the pre-antibiotic era was just ending. It may have lessons for us now.
More isolation facilities in general hospitals. So if a patient does develop a particularly nasty infection caused by a multi-resistant bacterium, get them out of the ward and get them into isolation.
The Department of Health says it will publish an action plan within weeks, but it's not clear if it will come with new funds to bridge the gap between basic research labs and drug companies, so far unwilling to commit the cash for much needed antibiotics of the future.